Good morning and welcome to the Capital Gang. I am Oscar Semoyamsoke, and as Moses and Alan of the morning show would say, with a bevy of topics. We have a rare sighting of Ofonopondo. You're most welcome to the Capital Gang of Ofonopondo.
Thank you. Why do you say rare?
I use facts.
I only missed last weekend.
Yes. And the other one.
But glad to be back on the gang.
Yes.
Once the campaigns are done, I will be a regular.
There was a young man here last weekend who was cleaning out Emmanuel Dombo. You missed him. You remember him, Honorable Dombo?
Absolutely, I do. He had a very infectious smile.
Yes.
And laughter.
One of my proteges.
Yes, he says he wants to go into NRM and change it. And he sees the NRM that needs to be changed as Emmanuel Dombo.
And he wants to begin with the SEC.
So tell me, how far have you gone with your election? Or just move closer to the microphone.
Well, as I said last time, I'm now a member of the Electoral College. I'm an executive of the NRM Elders League at the district. That makes me a member of the Electoral College of NRM.
Yes.
I have 40 districts from Jinja to Kaberamaido. So last week I went to the districts. I have done half of Main Teso. I've done the whole of Bukedi.
What do you mean when you say I have done?
You collect the delegates, because now we know the delegates, the members of the Electoral College. There are about 11 in each district. But
Ofonopondo is struggling to become an NRM candidate first. So his story now is what he's going through within the NRM infrastructure.
Yes. So I have
a kind of primary.
Yes. Yeah. Because once I'm now a member of the Electoral College, I'm now eligible for the NRM main Electoral College in August, which is between the 22nd and 25th. So we have delegates in the districts, and there are 11. The NRM executive, the league executive at the district, councillors for older persons, and if that district has a municipality, they also bring those delegates. So currently what I'm doing, I go to a district and I reach those 9 or 11 people. We sit in a meeting, I present my issues, and I request for their vote. So I'm going through all the 40 districts. So I have done half of Teso, I've done the whole of Bukedi, the 7 districts. At the weekend, I entered. Mid last week, I entered Saga.
And is your party giving you any kind of support?
My party?
Yes.
NRM? For now, no. But friends from NRM, friends from opposition.
Why are you pointing at me? I'm not your friend.
Oscar, many people are giving some support. Either fuel or money, because you need to
move around.
To move. But also you need to convince those people. Now, all the persons, generally speaking in Uganda, don't have much to their name.
Okay.
So you need to bring, either you go to their homes, or you bring them to a meeting. And that's a cost.
Yeah. And then for you, Emmanuel Dombo, what are you organizing? Now you are the party,
and of course,
or is a candidate?
Of course, I picked nomination forms.
Right.
I have paid the 3 million.
Okay.
I'm now going this week to look for signatures for people to nominate me.
Right. For MP elderly.
Yes.
Okay. So
and the people nominating me must also be older person, 60 years and above.
Right.
In my electoral area.
Okay.
Don't mind when Museveni goes, you're going to scrap all those nonsense of elderly.
Emmanuel,
Oscar,
what are you doing?
I read the other day that my brother Semuju had received their baptism certificate.
So you are
for PFF. Allow me to congratulate him and welcome him to the fray, because now we know progressively those who are going to meet are becoming clearer and clearer as we get organized. In NRM,
Honorable Dombo, I wanted you to talk about NRM.
In the NRM right now,
organizing,
we are picking. People are picking the expression of interest. There are people expressing their interest, paying nomination fees, picking the forms, which they'll be returning from 17th of this month for nomination. As they do
for nomination as a candidate in
for
NRM.
LC5 in NRM LC5
NRM primary.
and members of parliament. But in the meantime, the Electoral Commission of NRM also takes this time to verify on their documents, so that we minimize on the period or on the cases whenever we go to court for people who have or who may have papers that have issues that must be clarified.
So you, the Secretariat, is receiving nominations, and for each nomination, 3 million is paid.
Issuing nomination
3 million shillings is paid
to the NRM
to the
Secretariat.
NRM, and 1 million for the chairperson's LC5.
Right. 3 million MP, 1 million to
LC5.
So where do they get these forms from, the application forms?
By the end of yesterday, we had about 2,000 who had picked their nomination
Times
forms.
3 million. That's big money.
Nomination forms, and we believe that by the close of the exercise, we expect the numbers to be big enough. We shall come here, God willing, so that we can give the accountability.
Okay, so where can one NRM person, where can I pick up an NRM form for the primary?
For those, by the way, the exercise...
Use me as an example.
The exercise has been simultaneous, because even at the district level, those vying for councillors at the district and the chairperson LC3, they're also picking nomination forms and also paying fees as they have been directed. Those who want to pick, if you want to
contest, an example, yes.
If you want to contest for which constituency do you come from?
Wakiso.
If you wanted to contest,
Chira is my grandfather's.
If you wanted to contest for woman MP for Wakiso,
no, I'm a man.
No, sorry. If you wanted to contest as MP of Kira,
lack of clarity in NRM,
and pick the forms, you just come to the NRM Electoral Commission,
right,
headed by Dr. Tanga Odoi, and the other commissioners will be there. And this time, the exercise has been a little bit advanced, because you must prove membership, that you're a member of NRM, by extracting a membership slip, which must be printed by the NRM Secretariat in order to verify whether you're in the register or you're not.
Right. So to begin with, I'd go and register as an NRM person, pay an NRM fee, I get an NRM card, and then I'm good to go.
Absolutely, yes, but the registration ended a long time ago.
You must have registered long ago.
Okay. You're not taking any new registrations?
Absolutely not, because the cutoff date was communicated to everybody.
So if I want to vote NRM in January, February, I cannot vote for NRM?
No, voting you may, even if you are not a member of NRM, because that's why we are going to do campaigns. Although the structure of NRM is big, we shall use the structures to do mobilization and to vote, but we shall use them to convince other members from other parties, or who may not have any party, for them to come and vote NRM.
Okay. So that's a quick update on NRM matters.
Oscar,
yes.
To vote in NRM,
you must
be a registered member of NRM. So the primaries we are going for,
right,
you must be a member of NRM in order to vote.
For the primaries.
In order to stand for election, but also to vote.
But in the general election,
yes.
you
in the
can,
general election, yes.
Even if you're not
can vote for me.
Right. Okay.
In the general election, I am not an old person.
Let me go.
You need to go to Moses Ali.
Raymond, I have Raymond Mujuni in the studio, and Semuju knows Raymond is one of my favorite persons when he was still in the media, and not sure if he's still in the media or out of it, but you're most welcome.
I am out
to
of the active media. I'm actually looking forward to voting for the first time ever, because every election day I was either being deployed or on the desk. So now everyone in the studio has a chance to convince me to vote for them. Of course, I can't vote for Fono. I haven't reached the age.
Yeah, but can you vote for NRM? Like Honorable Dombo is saying, has he persuaded you enough?
I haven't been persuaded yet. I am yet to be persuaded by the NRM, but I think they have such a checkered history that it will be very hard for me to give them my vote.
You know, Oscar, there's somebody, a friend of Raymond, Charles Mpagi Mwanguhia.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
In the last election, he refused to come to the NRM. This time around, he has come to the NRM. So,
genuinely?
Yes. Raymond, your time for coming to vote NRM
is of course, in Toro, where I come from, we've never voted anyone who's not an NRM MP since multi-party politics came into force. That includes even 2016, when the chairman of the NRM campaigned for an independent candidate, the Toro voters promised him they would vote the bus, and they voted him and the NRM candidate, and skipped his candidate. So it's a difficult terrain there.
The chairman, you mean the president of Uganda?
Yes, he is the chairman of the NRM. Yes, he campaigned for an independent candidate called Kaliva against Alex Ruhunda, and people voted Alex.
People voted NRM.
Yes.
Right. Okay, Honorable Semuju, welcome to Gang.
Thank you.
I have Professor Mwangusia Ndevesa. He has allowed me to say it any way I want. We have really missed you.
He shares that name with the Congolese. There was a short man in Congo.
It was it is a royal name in Burundi.
You give him the microphone.
It is a royal name in Burundi, although I'm not royal. Unfortunately.
Who chose to give it to you?
Unfortunately, no. You consider Bantu migration.
Yeah.
So the Barundi, Congo, and the Bahororo are all Bantu, so there is no problem. There are different intonations and different sias and sas and whatever, but we are all in the Great Lakes region. So don't bother yourself looking for the etymology of the word Mwambusia. It all means actually the same. To make people cross all barriers. Yes. So you wanted to ask me whom to vote also?
Yes. Whether you've been persuaded by Honorable Dombo.
You see, for me, my constituency is now Uganda. So my vote is for those who are ready to practice sober politics. Anybody who deviates from that, I will not support them. So my issue is supporting, not voting.
Supporting, not voting.
Yes, I want to support the right civic ideals. If you are for justice, if you are for equality, if you are for inclusion, that you will be my candidate. And it doesn't matter whether I vote you or not, I can support you.
In that case, from the description you've given, you might end up voting NRM. Because I'm looking for the statistics on equality. Let me find out. The president gave his figures in his State of the Address. He said equality. I'm happy for you to give me that detail if you have it. He says literacy, 86 was 43%. Now it is 80%. You as a professor, you would know that.
But I also know that Ubos gave us multidimensional poverty in Uganda, and they located the likes of Oponopondo's region and Karamoja and northern Uganda as 60% poor compared to, I think, Kampala, which was put as, is it 5 or 3, and Southwestern around 10. So I know that there is no equality there, but there is also political justice. I don't know whether everybody has equal access to power and resources.
So economic inequality in 2021 it was 41%, and now it is 38%. So economic inequality is going down.
No, I don't think it was economic inequality. It was income.
Right.
The two are different.
Income inequality.
Yes.
The president calls it economic inequality.
Economic inequality, we know those people who are poorer than others.
Right. So, what do you take from the president's State of the Nation address? In Daily Monitor says he was saying we are unstoppable. Uganda is unstoppable.
What I take from the State of the Nation address, assuming we have a nation, because I have a different interpretation and definition of a nation state. But anyway, the president is a politician, and I appreciate that. And a politician will give that one which he wants the potential supporters and supporters to listen to. So definitely he does not give the whole picture. Because, for example, on the economic front, which you started with, you talked about, he was talking about our export earnings increasing, which is true, isn't it? But he didn't tell us the trade deficit, that bit of trade deficit, which is $400 million US. That one is not in the interest of a politician, more so the one who is coming to ask for votes to begin saying that, we have got a trade deficit of $400 million. You don't do that. Neither would you say that, for example, labor productivity in Uganda is lower than the whole of East Africa, the nation East Africa, or crop productivity is lowering down, is decreasing, or land productivity. That one wouldn't how to say it, or one would not say we have got a GDP rising. Yes, true, it is true. GDP, because of gold exports, but which are not taxed accordingly. And that one will not talk about it. And neither would one who is a politician say that the Human Development Index of Uganda, I think 2024, we are put at 153 out of 193. That is at the Human Development Index report. And when one is talking about increasing of universities, definitely Uganda has had the universities increase, school structures have come up. But if you are going for elections, you wouldn't say, but the dropout rate of children at the P7, senior 4 and senior 6 is so much, almost, I don't know how many times those who go to the other level. You wouldn't say that. If you are talking about roads, you don't talk about the roads in Kampala, you talk about roads up country. Because
I came by Old Chira Road.
Yes,
it is incredible. I'm going to ask listeners to send some photographs and we post.
Yeah, but you saw very good photographs about the roads up country, and also those are the tarmac roads, not the feeder roads. You wouldn't talk about that. There are very many things you wouldn't talk about when you are a politician, and you also somehow, I appreciate that you don't talk about the State of the Nation address is not the State of the Economy address. So you hardly talk about issues of democracy, issues of human rights, issues of national integration, because if you looked at the freedom index of Uganda, it is not something that would also be something. If I was even a politician and I'm going for elections, I wouldn't hurry to talk about that. We have talked about security. I wouldn't go and say that even my cows are being stolen. The goats are stolen, the coffee is stolen when it is still in the field. That is security. You don't talk about it. When you are talking about Human Development Index, you don't talk about malnutrition rates in Uganda, because they are very high, and the general food insecurity on average is not so good. So you wouldn't talk about climate issues. You wouldn't talk about the biomass rate at which Uganda is losing the biomass in terms of climate change and vegetation. But overall, when you are giving that picture and you are a politician, you give the State of the Nation address in those areas where you have scored very highly, not polarization. Remember when he was talking, opposition was not there. And a country which is so polarized like that, I don't think it is on the right path. And when you are talking to people and you are saying Buno Busaja to defeating, belittling some individuals that they are Busaja. So by and large, you don't even talk about transition, because everybody is waiting for a transition, but nobody talked about transition around that time because there is political uncertainty ahead. So as a politician, I expect that, and that is the picture you would give. You wouldn't even say that Uganda is is number one in getting drunkards, at the level of regulating alcohol for social transformation. You wouldn't say that very many people are going to Butabika. I don't know why we are getting mad. Those are not your issues there. So I do appreciate what the president was presenting as a politician who is going for elections in less than 1 year.
And seeing that you're a mwalimu, you're a teacher, so in terms of marks, out of 100%, what would you give him?
These days we no longer mark by marks. We give remarks.
Remarks.
We give remarks.
So you have given the remarks.
You can either say good or fairly good or very good or excellent.
So what are the remarks you have given on those terms of those descriptions?
Historians are not in the habit of giving those marks in those terms, but
you were giving us marks at the university, so you have changed it now.
The what?
You yourself, you are giving us marks.
I am saying these days, you were there long ago. How many years were you there? You are outdated now.
That time when I was at Makere, so you were not a historian.
Hold on. So,
but even now, I'm no longer there myself. I'm also expired.
Yeah. Raymond, as you come to the microphone, we welcome Honorable Katuntu. Most welcome to Gang Abdul.
Thank you, but don't give an impression that I've just walked in.
I also don't want to give an impression that you walked in a long time ago.
Thanks, Oscar, and good morning, listeners.
So, Prof talks about exports here grew by 26% to 9.3 billion. I'll save a question of coffee for Honorable Semuju. It's one of his pet subjects. Overall, what do you take from a State of a Nation address?
Oscar, I'm keen to be sympathetic and separate the politics. Separate the politics from the development.
Okay.
And I think the State of the Nation addresses more the development, less the politics. I think on the whole, you'd be hard pressed if you look at the data to say that they haven't delivered. Life expectancy has gone up 68.2 right now. Basic delivery of services has improved, even though we complain about it here in Kampala. The roads have broken down and but the basic delivery of services has improved. And the OPM unit, the Office of the Prime Minister, has a service delivery unit which has those numbers, just access to hospitals, access to education and things like that. I think where the NRM has struggled a lot is in the urban constituencies where it's not voted. The business climate, for example, in the city centre has just become so terrible. From the roads to the taxes, I think on that front we can all agree they've not done well. On the civil and political rights front, it's been possibly one of the most terrible periods for the NRM. People's human rights have been trampled left, right and centre, particularly with regard to civil and political rights. But I'd be hard-pressed to not be sympathetic. And that's why I said it's if you separate the development from the politics. You see, the politics can still be terrible when the country is developing. And I think that's where we are, that we have such terrible politics, but we also have development happening. And Prof talked about the Human Development Index. It's instructive to look across the region. Even the more advanced and developed economies like Kenya and Tanzania, they're not doing anywhere as good as we're doing. Whether you come down to strength of the currency,
whether
you
talks
come
about
down
the currency,
to
says
exports.
It's the most stable in Africa.
Yes, the most stable and in East
and
Africa.
inflation is at 3%.
So, I mean, even on human development, you'd be hard-pressed, for example, if we go to the human development indicators, which is education, access to education, the number of Ugandans accessing basic education now has gone up than it was before. We can argue about the completion rates. Yes. No, we can argue about the completion rates, but the access to education has gone up.
What about the quality?
Again, yes. Again, like I said, if we look at the hard cold data, it's not deniable that the number of people accessing education has gone up than it was before.
Yeah. Human development. Yesterday I drove into town on the week. It was Eid. I came into town and out of town for lunch. And I was quite scared with the level of border borders and the aggressiveness of the border borders. So yes, you have so many people now who have bought a border border. So there's progress on that.
Yeah, see the measure for human development.
5 million people have border borders.
Yes.
Is this in Kampala?
That's the economy of Uganda, 5 million border borders.
I think there are more. You might be talking about Kampala.
That's the data.
So Oscar, they measure, the typical measure for human development. The top of that is life expectancy. And on that front, the life expectancy is going nowhere near where we need to be, but it's 68.2. In the more advanced and robust economies, between 77 years and 80 years is where they are. So we are still on the march and still on the movement.
Okay.
But like I said, we split the development from the politics so that we deal with the politics. And in this studio, there are more politicians. So I think I'll leave the politics to the more established ones. Yeah.
I'll start with Honorable Semuju, then Honorable Katuntu, before crossing over to NRM. Honorable Samuju, as usual, you didn't go.
Yeah.
But you wanted him to talk about the basement? This is what Raymond is saying. Separate the two. Development and human rights. And
no, you see, the State of Nation address is constitutional. It is like you, Oscar, if you are an MD and the company gives you a budget, annually you will be asked to account for that budget. That's what the State of Nation address should be. For any MP, all government departments that come to Parliament to ask for money, for approval, the first section of their policy statement is about performance. Every single ministry, local government, they will tell you this was our performance with the money that you gave us, this is what we didn't do, this is what we want. Ordinarily, that's what Museveni comes to present to Parliament and to the country. I sympathize with Raymond. The most confusing thing about NRM are figures. They even fight themselves. In consideration of the last budget, Minister of Finance had different figures of the public debt. Bank of Uganda had another figure. The Auditor General had another figure. So I asked Gobi, who came with the finance, who do we believe? And I think now he issued a statement because I saw the Auditor General saying now we have recalculated our debt, because Gobi was very furious. If you read the figures in the UBOS report, you'll find a different picture. For example, and they have various reports, the one of multidimensional, but also the main report. UBOS tells you that the working age in Uganda as far for our national policy, labor policy, 14 to 64 old. There are 25 million now in Uganda, 25 million people who are of working age. Only 9 are in some form of employment, only 9 million out of 25. And then when you go to look at the Bank of Uganda...
This is from the census
report. This report, you can go. I have it here. I'll send you. And then when you go to Bank of Uganda Financial Capability Report, Bank of Uganda tells you that of those people working, only less than 1% earn $1 million shilling and above of those who are working. Majority, about 43, are paid 150,000 per month. So that's your economy, Oscar. You have 25 million people are supposed to be working. Only 9 are working, are in some form of work. But of those who are in some form of work, only less than 1% earn $1 million and above. Majority, 150,000. People are hand to mouth. You ask each MB here, he's talking about access, including those who are from the villages. They are suffering. They are the ones who are paying for hospital bills, school fees, what. So for me, I don't want to go into the theory of economic professors, of GDP and what, because they are going to do calculations based on the performance of a country, not the performance of the individuals. Oscar, look, for example, the most lucrative business today in Uganda is lending government money. Every year, banks collect 11 trillion shilling in interest. South African banks, because you have 24 banks, only 4 are locally owned. The rest are South African, Kenyans, and so forth. Because even the budget you do itself, that Museveni will be presenting next week, that budget, 38% of that budget is to service debt, to pay these Stambik where we pick money. So these are the figures as they are in all the government books. The only thing of late that I do is to pick a calculator and read these books as I do the calculation. Uganda, since independence, we have 1.7 million people, 1.7, who have academic qualification. 600 graduates with a degree, about 400 with a certificate, and another 600 with a diploma. You have a population of 45.9 million people only 1.7 have those academic qualifications. But even those you can't employ. Oscar, you know them. They are in the Middle East working as house girls with their degrees from Professor Mwambuse. Your economy that is performing. Girls are looking for visas to go to Oman, to go to Dubai. We have about now more than 1 million girls who are in those countries. Some of them graduates. This one, the professor, the graduates, they're churning out.
He was teaching them the choice history. What job was he preparing them to have?
So if you are serious about the economy of Uganda and you want to measure it in terms of coffee export and cocoa and cotton, you're going to, because 62% of the population are still in agriculture. Only 2% are carrying out irrigation. Mechanized. That's the point I was making when I was making a response to the budget. You need 300 billion shilling to buy tractors. They are provided 60. And at that rate, you will need another 20 years for you to have tractors at all sub-counties. So the figures that Museveni presents, he presents them to any, I don't want to call them illiterate, but a population that doesn't read, that will not give, including MPs. Oscar, don't be surprised. I was responding to the budget. The vice chairperson of the budget committee of parliament, when I told him we are paying Congo, we are giving him budget money, he said it's not in the budget. Even him, he came to present a budget, he did not read these NRM fellows. So that's why Museveni enjoys them. When he's at Kololo, he will read the figures, misread them, they crap. Then he says unstoppable. Unstoppable where? 25 million Ugandans of the working age, only 9 are working. Only 1% of those who are working earn $1 million shilling. I remember Father Carlos, who was operating in the north at one time, he did an article in the Observer, and he said he had gone to an ATM card and corrected the receipts. And he said the balance on each receipt was less than 10,000. He was speaking about because they tell you banking, now people have access to banking. What do they bank there? So everybody withdraws 5,000, 2,000, and the balance, and from here you can go at any banking hall here and correct those receipts. They are thrown in a dusty bin. They will not inconvenience you because they are already thrown. And then look at people's balance. You will now know why people are struggling.
So in conclusion, for now, I take it that
the state of national address. That's why Museveni carefully he will go to Bigo bya Mugenyi, how man was created. How he when he came here,
in the same category.
Because Oscar
Mwambuse refused to go into the history of a name. He said he's looking at recent times.
The real issues finally, Oscar, and I didn't say this when I was here. Sometime back when looking at the budget. You pass a budget as parliament. Like now it is 72 trillion. The actual money that they keep singing about youth and the people who are poor, who are about 14 million, is 1 trillion. We are spending 12 trillion on 400,000 government workers, including all of us. So you spend, because salaries alone is 8.5 trillion. Then the vehicle fuel, what you come to 12 trillion. So that's the money for 400,000 people. And then the 14 million who are poor, you give them 1 trillion. And you will see Museveni going around checking on them and asking them. The other day he said, you people, they told me you have a relationship with poverty. I have come here to help you get out of poverty. So you've spent 2.4 billion shilling to drive a convoy to go and check on someone who has 1 pig. And then you drive to another one who has a tray of egg. You photograph yourself, and then in turn to compare that you are breaking the relationship between people and poverty. So if you had a government worth a name, the budgeting and allocation of resources should seek, and that's what I told them in Parliament, should seek to address these social economic issues of the population, which it doesn't. And I illustrated the Oscar when I was in Parliament. We grew up in a village where the bigger people will be taken to the sitting room, all the boxes of meat, chicken, pilau, they will go to where they are seated. For you, they give you one container with some rice, and then they are busy inside quarreling. Why are you not getting satisfied making noise for everybody? That's what Museveni does. So he has locked himself with Dombo and Ofono in a sitting room, feasting on chicken, on meat, on fish, on mputa, on everything. They are asking the poor, vulnerable Ugandans outside, why are you making noise? You've made a relationship with poverty. That's what the State of Nation address is.
Okay, Abdu, you were there.
Yes, I was. I'll always be there.
Yes.
I was elected to do that.
And what did you take from the State of the Nation address?
First of all, previously I've been having a lot of problems with the SONA, as we call it, the State of the Nation address, because the president would go away from really explaining how the country is performing, and he goes into other things until this particular State of the Nation address. And I'm really, I'm happy with this particular State of the Nation if we go to it itself. Because
in terms of
in terms of content,
right.
In terms of content, he did what I do expect him to do, sector by sector, performance. He gave the figures. Yes, maybe Ibra would have problems with the figures. We can interrogate that, but at least he went. I'll give you an example. When you his usual weakness was only about 2 pages of the 51 about NRM ideology and so on. But from there, he went to peace, security, and regional stability. He went to political and economic resilience. He went to exports, giving detailed figures, sector by sector. He went to foreign direct investments. He went to domestic revenue mobilization. I think you need to congratulate his handlers this time around. They made him focus on really sectors of the country. Manufacturing, he went to energy, he went to size of the economy, agriculture production, and all those details. I agree with the Professor Mambusha here, but from a different perspective. One, if you go and you start going for your weaknesses, you sometimes miss out on the strides you have made. So you don't go and say, by the way, we are doing badly here and so on and so forth. You just go, it's okay. On this one, we've made this progress. On this, we've made this progress and so on. And the figures are there, Oscar. You may have a problem with them, but they are there. Fish, what, all those details, because of the 52 pages of the SONA. I think, because I've read it, I listened to it, and I've read almost the entire speech over and over again. I think 40% describe what the country is today. And this time, I don't know whether you listened to him, he didn't so much, go into off-cuff. He restricted so much to the speech, just a little bit of off-cuff humor here and there, but he restricted him to the speech. There is an opportunity for us now as members of parliament, because we debate this speech, and now we go into the details of it and interrogating the figures Honorable Semuju is talking about, whether these figures as given by the president, very impressive of course, really are cooked figures, or they are proper figures in accordance with the government institutions and so on. If we can assume the president is going to continue being president for more than for some time. Okay, then the next we don't know what will happen. So, Oscar, I think this is what it should be, and I think whether it is Moses Byaruhanga who wrote it for him, this time congratulate him. He did a good job.
Yeah. And Moses Byaruhanga is one saying, please inform my former teacher, Prof. Ndewesa, who should be voting for OO. I guess based on age. Yes, that gold is taxed at $200 per kilo. And also Semuju is saying that the working age starts at 14. Does he expect the 14 to 23 years to be working or schooling?
I am not the National Labour Policy. Tell him to go and read.
But I also have a problem with that because you see, when you look at the population as it is, there is no way you'll say that 25 million people are working people. It's not possible.
You have a problem with the policy.
It doesn't make sense. People are supposed to be in school and so on. You can't expect them to be working because how many people are above 18 of the 49 million people? So there's something fundamental wrong with some of these people who go to school and
or who give figures.
No, I am quoting you. I'm quoting you. National policy. It's not my national.
To clear the air.
Yes.
What the policy says is working age,
yes.
and what constitutes working. For example, it's illegal for anyone under 18 to participate in paid labor under the law. But you can be of working age at 14. You can help your parent in the farm. That's what they consider working age. Yes. And it's the policy there.
Yeah. Let me tell you,
it is the Ofono Pondo's policy. Maybe me,
because you are just explaining people who are in school. Say, by the way, these are now not employed and so on.
But you should also be aware that in schools they are not there.
Yeah.
Because you enroll 2 million at P1, by P7 it is 700.
About 880.
They are not in school.
Let me, I'm going to come to Emmanuel Domba.
Ofono here, Oscar, just a second. You remember what O said here when we are discussing about miners? And he said he had employed some at his farm because they need to feed.
Yeah.
Have I said something wrong?
Honorable Semuju, I sent students to do work experience for 2 weeks.
You're talking about people who are on farm work.
Get experience. So at that point, they are working age.
And you are talking about employment?
No, not employment. Work, not employment. Raymond, yes. Angelo here says to you, Angelo Izama, one of our gangs as well, says if Centenary Bank reported in its profit statement that management fees accounts are at Uganda shillings 380 billion, that's nearly half of its operating income. Yeah.
Yes.
So kind of corroborates with what Semojo is saying.
You see, Oscar, there's a thing. So in classic economics, inherent contradictions. The economy can both grow and not be distributive. We have samosas in this room, for example.
Yes.
If we distribute these samosas equitably across all of us, some of us may not get as good a picture as the others. But if the lady continues to bring more samosas, then the number that goes around us is different.
See, O has returned from
yes.
Usually he's a destroyer.
So the crisis we have here again, like I said, I'll surrender the politics to established politicians.
My age no longer allows me to get oily things.
The crisis we have is that we have an economy that's growing, but it's not distributing anywhere near enough. And this is what Semojo is referring to, that you have the number of people who are earning from the economy. There are high net worth individuals that URA will tell you, for example, we have about 500 Ugandans who make close to 5 billion shillings every month from this economy. That's a whole different lifestyle from the rest of us who are average earners. In terms of bank accounts,
the only way he can account for his wealth, immense wealth he has, is under NRM.
I don't want to get into that. But the other
before NRM, how old was he?
NRM came here when I was 12.
And made his life.
I think the figure that would help us is the demand deposits, the one that Semuji was referring to, where people go to the ATM and demand deposits. So demand deposits is the amount of money available in the bank that people can demand and pick. And that figure has been growing up.
50%.
Yes, that figure has been growing up. That figure is at about 21 trillion shillings at the moment. So like I said, the measurement, here we have a contradiction, that the economy is growing, but it's not distributing. And the distribution is now a political matter.
So Raymond, listen to this one. Nora Waraga tells you, on the Human Development Index, it is also acknowledged as increased by the UN. But if she sends an article here, in Human Development Index, it still lags in Uganda still lags in terms of gender equality.
That is true. That one, there's no contest.
What about regional equality?
Regional, that is also true.
Because there are some regions where you hardly get anybody even passing in grade 1 at a certain level. That is also a question of spatial inequality in the country.
May not speak about them, but that's where he's been campaigning lately.
Yeah.
Even according to you, boss. Let's go to Honorable Dombo, who will say the State of the Nation address was excellent. So you can start from there.
Oscar.
You may want to disagree for the first time.
Give him the benefit of doubt.
Oscar, for 20 years, I was a member of parliament.
And a very good MP.
And continually listened to the president give the State of the Nation address. And I want to tell you that at one time there had been a proposal that we make an enabling law. The enabling law was proposed to require the president to give a comprehensive State of the Nation that captures a string of things within the economy. That particular.
What about politics? What about social?
That particular year, when Honorable Katuntu and others came up with that proposition, I think I don't know what had happened. When the president talked, you would see that there were many fundamentals that had not been addressed. I listened attentively this time, and in my chair I was seated in the office because I did not go to Kololo because of the urgent things we're dealing with. I gave the president a standing ovation from my office because of the issues Honorable Katuntu has just mentioned. You see, the president has got 2 hours in order to capture the things that he considers important to tell the nation about the state of the nation. And 2, in his conclusion, he said he's going to deal with the issues of corruption and other issues on the budget day. So he deliberately omitted those because there is going to be another opportunity to deal with them, and he talked about the fundamentals on which the economy lies. Honorable Semujunganda is right. There are many issues that we must deal with in the economy and the social life of Ugandans. The level of corruption that characterizes the institutions where people are registered en masse, showing the numbers that we have certain numbers because people want capitation grant. But when you get the only day when you are going to check those registering for the final exam, you discover that all along you have been funding children in primary schools who have not been actually there. But now the gap is being shown because of these omissions. These are things that we must deal with and the underlying factors which must happen, because there's been corruption in schools. People have been overstating the number of children. There have been an attempt to do statistics and enumeration. Now that head count is going to help us to confirm whether what the head teachers report is right. But for us recently, as a party secretariat, we just visited one of the districts in Omoro here. And the confessions we got from some of the teachers is very revealing. So, as the president talked about corruption, that's one of the areas that we feel that the president must deal with. Secondly, in order for the economy to run, or for the president to be able to fund security, job creation, and any other aspects of the economy, he must earn money. That's why people are fighting to go to parliament. You'd ask yourself, how would NUP be fighting against Semujunganda in Kira for them to go and fight Museveni, if not to partake of what the economy is providing within parliament? So, because of that, therefore,
both you and Semunjo are not on microphone. Can we continue? Emmanuel Dombo's voice is enough to cover all of you.
Because of that, therefore, we believe that this year's State of the Nation address covered the fundamentals, but also raises the gaps that are existing. The president is talking about skilling. When you got the skilling centers, recently I went to one of the farms in Gayaza here, and I went with my family and other farmers. What was so surprising is that the person who was teaching in that farm, the highest level of education was senior 4, But in the class, we were still there with a professor from Makerere University, who had come to learn how to look after cattle and feed cattle. So skilling of Ugandans is a fundamental area that had been omitted, and we needed to integrate skilling right from the time when a child goes to school. When I joined Bukedi College Kachonga in 1978, we were doing metal workshop. And in my senior 4, the job that I was doing, I was repairing saucepans and cups and plates, because it was a skill that I had learned while I was in school. Right now, the majority of the children that was teaching, nobody can do any skilling out of the 4 years education that they have. There has been a curriculum review now. They may begin addressing some of those. But these are fundamental gaps that are existing, and we shall appeal to members of parliament to help us that, as the president raised here, we need the skilling of the young people. Those people are talking of going to Saudi Arabia with degrees. Somebody has studied history. Somebody has studied psychology. Somebody has...
You think history is useless?
No. History is not useless.
So what are you trying
to... But the employability...
What point are you trying to...
The employability.
Have I not been employed?
The opportunities.
And you were running to Parliament looking for a job when I didn't go there?
Professor, I'm telling you that there are many children who have done history on the streets of Uganda. They are looking for jobs that are not available, and they have ended up being made in foreign countries. Those children, if they are given skills...
If you go there, you'll find their engineers.
If those children are given schools, those who go as engineers go as experts. They do better jobs and earn better money.
But even the historian can go there as an expert.
Well...
that is off topic. Continue.
So the issues the president raised, this was a fantastic. But like Honorable Katuntu says, we now need to look into the figures and the statistics that has been given. Even the level of funding. If the president is raising challenging issues and areas that there must be intervention, and yet the members of parliament have made a budget, does the budget take into consideration the issues? Does it take consideration the issues that the president has raised? If it doesn't, and there's an opportunity for a supplementary expenditure, these are the issues now. You be using the president's speech in order to overcome some of the issues that you have been asking. Because this is how we used to do it when we were in Parliament. I don't know how you do it these days.
Let's go to a phone on the State of the Nation address.
Yeah, Oscar, it is a truncated debate here. And we are not helping listeners, in my view, because you had said assessment of the State of the Nation. Did the president's presentation give accurate reflection of the country? The heckler in Semunji. Wait when I come to Parliament and we heckle each other. For now, let us use the microphone.
You continue. I only have your microphone on. Let's be strong on the microphone.
Like Honorable Katuntu, Raymond, and Honorable Dombo, they have said, I think the presentation reflects the state of the country, its politics, its social terrain, its economic terrain. Did it cover everything comprehensively? No. Obviously not. Partly on account of time. But if you say in summary, the president tackled major areas. What are those major areas? In my view, there are 4. The first one, obviously, the security, peace, stability, and tranquility in the country. Is our country more stable today, more tranquil than 5 years ago, than 10 years ago, than 40 years ago? Obviously, yes. Is this tranquility being consolidated? Yes. And the president and all of us know that in Uganda today, you can move to wherever place you want, anytime. Particularly, no state agents will. No. You made your presentation.
Continue.
I know when we talk about history not being as irrelevant to the economy, you will jump on me. But yes. Your lack of knowledge about me does not mean I'm not, and I forgive
you. Just continue.
Yes. Mambusia, his history does not confer on him or in him comprehensive knowledge about individuals. No, it doesn't.
Hold on, Professor. Let him first finish.
I am saying so.
Here, I didn't talk about Nyunguya Mawe. I challenged you on the statistics of human development, which he doesn't know.
On that one, the state of the country's security, as the president presented, is reflective of what is on the ground. Secondly, the president talked about the state of the economy, giving graphic details of where we are at micro, medium, and national level. And these are parameters or indices that are internationally set. For example, is our population living longer? Yes, it's living longer today than 5 years ago, as reflected by infant survival or reduction in infant mortality, a reduction in maternal mortality, increase in life expectancy.
Just pause there for a second.
Our economy is more diversified today than before. We are still depending.
First pause there. I want to stop for a break and then come back to you. Back from the break, a bit of argument in the break as well. You were presenting.
Yes, I was saying, indeed, our economy today is more diversified than 10 years ago. Go to any shop in Uganda today, you will see that about between 40 and 60% of the goods in those shops are locally manufactured.
40%?
40, 60%, depending on where you go. 40. Yes. No. No. I'm talking about the structure of the economy. 30 years ago, 30 years ago, we were smuggling basic things: sugar, soap, soda, and beer. The state was the one distributing. Today, many of those things are locally manufactured. You can say they are Chinese companies or Indian companies that are here making them, but they are Ugandan businesses. They pay taxes to Uganda. We are still relying, to some extent, on donations from wealthier countries. But generally speaking, Uganda is able today to fund many more services and goods on its own. And I want to give just our own political area, governance. There was a time in this country when our governance institutions, parliament, our elections, our judiciary, our police was being recruited, trained, and funded only when the Commonwealth, particularly Britain and Canada, would say we now have money for you to recruit the police, for you to recruit the judges. Today, we are recruiting those judges, we are training them, we are paying them on our own. And therefore, in my assessment, the presentation of the president on that account reflects the state of the nation. Let us go to infrastructure. The 5 major infrastructure in the country. If you go to roads are certainly improving. Are they sufficient? Certainly not. But they are improving. If you go, there's no border of Uganda today that you cannot drive and come back to Kampala in one day on account of relatively. I am talking about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Would you drive to Arua from Kampala and come back the same day? No. Would you go to Kisoro? Would you drive to Kisoro and come back the same day? No. Today you can drive from Kisoro to Moroto on a good road, and probably even go back to Kisoro if you want to Moroto. So for me, yes, Masaka is on account of one, heavy traffic, but also broken road. But are there no other roads being done? There are other roads being done. The second area of infrastructure is just energy. Have we put energy in everybody's house, in everybody's factory? Obviously, no, yes, but we are 25% from where there was a time when we were 6%. Today we are 25%. And therefore, in terms of energy infrastructure, what the president presented reflects what is on the ground. Let's go to telecommunication. 20 years ago, 10 years ago, there were parts of this country, districts in this country, where you wouldn't even get a telephone call. You needed to climb on a tall tree. Those of us who travel in this country today, nearly every district, nearly every place now, has data connection. It may not be as reliable, but there's a data connection. You can do internet work there, you can do email there, you can do WhatsApp there, and you don't have big issues. Let's go to
Someone
education.
Is telling you here that all those things you've mentioned so far are coming from improved global technology. Not necessarily related to NIM.
Go to Congo and have the same argument. Go to South Sudan and have the same argument. Go even to Sudan and have the same argument. If it is a global, no. If it is a global trend, then it should be everywhere. Let us look at our education. I agree, and I am very grateful for the Honorable Dombo. There have been people in the government who are fidgeting with figures for self-pecuniary interest. If you go to many of our schools, for example, and this should have been done or ought to be done by all elected leaders, just pay a courtesy call to any of your primary schools or 2-3 primary schools in your constituencies and say, Mr. Headmaster, I have come, call children, let's do a head count. And then say, give me your register. And do that again after 3 months. You will see a marked difference that the actual pupils in schools don't tally with what the teachers, what the management in the school have in their register. Usually they inflate for various reasons and so on and so forth. So it is incumbent upon us, particularly the leaders, to ensure that we bring these issues out and reflect. Professor Ndebesa says the president did not talk about this, but these figures are there. The president did not need to talk about dropout rates, probably. Only recently, when the president has been doing the PDM tours, it is him, for example, who said how in Teso sub-region, in Bukedi sub-region, the success rate, transition rate of children from primary to secondary is hardly 30%. It is him who said so.
But it has been known.
We are not assessing PABM. No. We are assessing Sona's speech.
I am saying the president's speech reflected what is on the ground. Was it comprehensive? Did it touch every detail? Obviously, he couldn't do so on account of time. Now, let us go to the fourth area of the infrastructure. The schools. Have the government schools and the private schools increased and improved? My response is yes, and what the president is saying reflects what is on the ground. Are there no weaknesses in the school infrastructure? Obviously, there are weaknesses in the school infrastructure, but do they reflect what is on the ground? Yes. There has not been any attempt by the president to hide the internal weaknesses or malaise in government. in any case, most of the time, these weaknesses are being unearthed not by individuals or even opposition groups as they would want the public to think. They are being identified and raised by government institutions. Parliament is one of them, IGG is another, and the different inspectorates of ministries. They're the ones raising these things. And so I would only have issue. I would have issues if the president tried to hide information or tried to hide a weakness. It is this government, of all the governments we have had, that has had the courage. Yes. Yeah, and even that one is good. Now, somebody talks. Somebody stronger. Yes.
More than 80% of Uganda's population have known only one government.
Yes, and I'm saying that is good. What? Yes. What we should wait for?
At least for him, he can tell us the two, because he was in the other government of UPC and he's in NRM.
I know you,
so he can assess both of them.
You and I, the four of us here, were in UPC. You remember?
No, I was not in UPC.
You remember in Rohama. You remember the CA election which you tried. One of the
was I in UPC?
One of the reasons you were not elected in that election of '94 probably was your association with UPC. And you know, I was a journalist then. You didn't you contest?
How did they associate me with UPC?
Anyway,
I am a former member of UPM. So who told you that I was UPC?
Longevity of one government is good. It would have been a problem if we had been long here and doing nothing. Now somebody talks about transition. Yes, we have not yet transited from one president to another peacefully. But look at the leadership, the people in leadership. Don't you see transition? Honorable Semuju here replaced Honorable Njoba. No, Njoba. Isn't that a transition?
In NRM.
No. Isn't that a transition?
In NRM.
Before Njoba died.
In NRM.
So you wanted him to continue being an MP in his grave.
In NRM, younger people have replaced Dombo.
That is succession, not a transition.
Isn't that a transition?
The two are different.
Transition from an older Dombo who had spent 25 years, a quarter of a century in the parliament, by younger people. And if you look at many of the constituencies, look at our parliament, for example. Our parliament, the average age at entry is usually 37, 42, average. I dare say, probably this coming one, the average, the dominant age in parliament could be 30.
So,
and for me, that's
so
both
much,
succession and transition in our governance, which is good. Somebody, you said Noro Waraga, talks about women. Even there, yes, they have not reached equilibrium. But generally speaking, more women are entering decision-making places, both in the government and the corporate world. Go and check the banking, the financial sector, go and check the corporate world. You will see many, many more women rising up into executive positions. Go look at our judiciary, for example. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, how many women did we have at the High Court? How many women did we have at the Court of Appeal? How many women did we have in the Supreme Court? How many women did we have as permanent secretaries?
And so far he has covered 200 kilometers. Maybe Raymond will comment on it when he comes on. But I invited Honorable Lumo yesterday, and he hasn't made it. I want to talk a little bit about DP. Starting with you, Honorable Semuju.
Because I am DP.
You are close to you've been Subi, and you are also PFF. So at some point we are going to talk about PFF. So now I keep thinking, how many DPs do we have? Democratic Party.
There is one DP.
There is one DP.
Yeah.
Right.
People have left because you see a political party.
Because at some point there were also two FDCs. That's what comes to mind when I asked you how many DPs.
There is no two FDCs anymore.
Yeah. The other one has become PFF.
Yes.
Okay. So going back, how many DPs do we have?
The DP people have registered a number of political parties. People are known to be DP. The latest of those is the Democratic Front by the Honorable Mpoga.
for him, he had left.
But within his group, he's DP. That's why he goes back to DP. Within his group, the Honorable Maviki has Social Democratic Party. The Honorable Obedwanka has People's Development something. The Dr. Urume, who is my friend, and I told him when he was going to contest for this DP election, and I want to congratulate him. Maybe there are things we've known that we would never have known. That once a party, the leadership of party begins working with the government, it becomes very difficult for you to go and change anything. I had colleagues who said we should go back to Najana Nkumbi and fight. These fellows can't take our party. You go to Najana Nkumbi, the outside has police, inside has chiefs. You get beaten by chiefs inside, you come outside, you get arrested by police. And I said, for me, I am not going to subject myself to that I wake up every day to go to Najana Nkumbi. You enter, they beat you. You jump the first, police arrest you. So, so I told Lumu, you can try, and Dr. Vaiga. But
you were actually advising him to leave the DP.
Because it's a wastage of time. Once a party has been taken, it has been taken. It's like a person dying. You bury. My father died. I took him to the grave. But I wanted him to leave. So do I go with him? He has died. So I go and accompany him. The only time I accompanied him was when I went to lower him into the ground. And I prayed for him and left.
Okay.
But so I think the Vaigas want to continue. So they have accompanied their father to the grave. They want also to stay there.
You're saying they are fighting a futile battle.
It is not possible. You see, for us in Uganda, look at UPC. Walubiri and his team went to all courts, including the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court judged that Akena was a UPC leader against all the laws. That's why the Supreme Court said. But he continued being. Then NRM recognized him. Because you see, parties are recognized by the Electoral Commission run by NRM. I don't remember which election it was, when Walubiri had just registered success in one of the courts. And I know, I may not tell you the details, but Museveni called someone. He sent to Electoral Commission to issue a press statement that they recognize Akena because we are moving towards the nomination. And the Electoral Commission issued a press release to say, for us, we recognize Akena despite the court judgment. So if you wanted to contest as UPC, you had to go to Akena. If you want to continue crying over UPC, you hold a workshop. But the party had gone.
Okay.
So the elections I don't know why this guy is going to disturb Mao. He took his thing. It's finished. And at every stage, police was intervening to stop them. Maybe they wanted to expose him, and that was the only success. But you spend a lot of time and resources on that. Yet you need the same resources to go and mobilize electoral areas where you are contesting.
Professor, on DP.
Yeah, I wanted to continue on security because I don't know why we are disturbing the peace of DP, which should be allowed to rest in peace. Because
we will talk about security in a few minutes, but DP has been in the news this week.
DP has been in the news, like Honorable Nganda has said. There is a lot of political polarization in the country. It's not only in DP, it is in all parties. Luckily, NRM, theirs might not be salient because they are in power. And if one continues to shout, they can go to parliament and appropriate some 100 million to them and they will keep quiet. So DP has issues, and I think Sebagara said that Mao would dump it in the Nile. I think he has now dumped it in Katonga. Because where they have reached, I think they have reached a point of no return. First of all, they had been reduced to Buganda only in terms of those who could go to parliament. Now, it has been truncated. I think you saw some of the MPs from DP have crossed through NUP, have followed their former colleagues who had also joined NUP. By and large, that is a challenge, that is a tragedy of Africa, of post-independence Africa. By the way, there is almost no political party, that independence political party, that lost power, that regained anything to the status even of getting 10%. As long as it lost power, we are waiting to see how CCM will survive. It may, even when it loses power, because it is institutionalized. But even those which missed coming into office, into power, the independence political parties, they are no longer surviving because they were not institutionalized. So even the DP or NRM or FDC, you will find the NRM resorting around President Museveni, FDC around Chiza Besigye, DP around Mao now, NUP now around the Chaguranyi. So unless the parties are institutionalized and membership in the party are united by a thread of a value system or values rather than just following the individual, definitely when they are not in power to use advantage, take advantage of power, they are likely to disintegrate. So what we saw in Mbarara was a clear case of rigging, because you cannot say that so and so has been proposed as the chairperson of the electoral commission or electoral management committee, and so who seconds so and so says I have seconded, nominations closed. But there were others who were aspiring to come there. The same thing of rigging internally happened in UPC in 1964, 65 or thereabout. In Guru conference, when they rigged out Kakonge, you ask UPC what happened to it after that Guru conference. It has never been a UPC that was there before. So these internal challenges in DP can be in any other, and unfortunately, the rigging that took place in the Mbarara is very, very unfortunate, and it has really disintegrated DP when it had just decided to be in a survival mood and survive only in Uganda. Now even it has lost out in Uganda, so I don't know where it is going to be. Maybe Mao is going to take the leftovers to the NRM, and that will be the end of DP.
Raymond.
Yes.
Seated next to Professor here, quoting 1964.
I struggle with I think that political parties and political identities, I struggle to see the future for them. The average voter now coming into the next election, these young Gen Zs, these traditional opposition political parties, traditional ruling parties, they are not the way in which they organize their politics. So a party like the Democratic Party used to be founded on strong ideals like religion, Catholicism, for example. That's dying out in the younger ages. So you can't tell people that, you know, if you're Catholic, we organize our politics through a political party called the Democratic Party. Those things are dying out.
You may find that if you're Catholic, you're not even a voter. You don't vote.
Exactly.
You just go to Namugongo.
Yes, and I even sympathize a lot more with even the NRM, because for the NRM, it's really built on the capacity for violence and legitimacy after the election. The ability of the NRM to mobilize both money and human resources to guarantee wins, electoral victory for candidates. That's really its strong spot. Over time, that's going to die out. The number of people showing up to vote are going to reduce increasingly. So you have total voters who register, and then those who eventually show up to vote, and then those who vote the winning candidate. Museveni was voted by like 5.8 million people. That's less than 12% of the voters, total voters in the country. That should tell something about people not organizing within the politics of the country. So I struggle to see the future of these parties. I see people fighting tooth and nail to get these parties.
Shall we go the Kenya way?
Maybe we will go that way, where people arrange along coalitions. But people's politics have become very different. This is the last year, for example, that Uganda is going to have without oil. Once oil money starts to flow, we will become a very different political entity. If people in Hoima, for example, say we will not back the NRM, there will be an immediate concern there on how does the NRM organize without places like Hoima and Masindi. So for people fighting for political parties, I think the noise should be outside. You should worry a lot more about the people who are not showing up to those political parties. Yeah.
Abdu? on DP.
About parties, he's independent.
Carl has sent me a message saying finally Semuju has accepted that FDC had Chifesi and goons.
I think historians will agree that at the time the Uganda People's Congress and the Democratic Party were being formed, religion was a big factor, because at that time these religions were trying to fight for political space, and the Catholics anchored in DP and the Protestant in the UPC. But that is all history. Today the circumstances are different. DP had to reinvent itself, so UPC had to reinvent itself outside the religion. Will it be possible? Maybe not. They are stuck. Now, the Honorable Mao runs a very, very big contradiction, Oscar. And let me tell you why. One, the stronghold of the Democratic Party is in Buganda. And the Buganda leaders in DP feel this is their thing. They have never accepted Mao as their leader. Look at all the members in parliament. All of them, they have never, the majority of them, they have never accepted Mao as their leader. They certainly look at him as an outsider. So what Norbert has done is to mobilize the other regions where actually DP is non-existent. And they come with the numbers. And actually throw away the Buganda seeking leader. They throw them away and impose Mao. But then there is no support of DP in Karamoja, in West Nile, in Isebe, nothing. In Mbale, nothing. It is literally in Bukedi where Dombo comes from. It is zero. But there are many delegates who are coming from Bukedi to come and vote with the Rurumers who have the pattern and the support. It's the biggest contradiction Norbert Mao finds himself, and isolated. Because where DP is strong, Mao is seen, maybe non-existent. And where there is no DP, Mao is strong. I don't know how you can run such a party. So, no wonder that the only option left to him is to enter into some sort of marriage with the ruling party. Otherwise, had he continued being, where is the headquarters again? Balintuma there. He would have been a Balintuma politician. He would have just lived there on Balintuma Road and so on, moreover in a hostile territory. But whenever now the DP supporters come in, the activists from Buganda, he must rely on his other partner to help him. Indeed, like we saw in Mbarara, he had to rely on... Sorry? Oh, it helped in providing security. Can I end on that note?
Abdul, you know that I've told you and I've told Mao as well that my late father had forgiven him for taking the DP party.
Yes.
He told him that I have forgiven you. But these days, I don't know what he would tell him when they meet later.
I don't know what they will tell him, because really, to me, where Mao comes from, there is no DP. And the people, there's very little DP there. And the DP which was there was based on their history of Acholi and Catholics. That is all. Yeah. Otherwise, don't tell me about the DP in the north.
Let's stop for a break, and then I'll get
in Acholi.
Come back from the break. We'll have a fast discussion on DP and then go to security in Uganda. Soon to be Honorable Fonopondo, why did Norbert Mao
function? These days we meet them at funerals. Yeah. They are called MP2B.
MP2B.
So call him MP2B of Fonopondo.
MP2B of Fonopondo. What's MP2B of Fonopondo?
I don't refer to myself because that's not a title.
I'm really waiting for you in Parliament, because you have never liked that institution. But that's a discussion for me and you later.
I have had
problems with the leadership.
With the leadership?
No,
I can't have issues with the institution, but the content there. And not just me. Honorable Semuja has described them variously.
But you are not agreeing. But
tomato growers, potato growers, and so on. So
why was this delegates conference important to?
I was with Honorable Mao in another show. Our show with the Honorable Semujo didn't turn up last Thursday, and he said in Mbarara particular, in the run up to Mbarara, he had been surrounded by the people said enemies. That's what he said, and said that those enemies are provincialists. They are tribal ethnicists from Buganda, who, as Abudu says, have never wished him well. And we all know that when Mao came in 2010, that was the contour of the contest in DP. The people in Buganda who Abudu says are the ones who have the support of the party, have the majority support of the party.
Go to the figures. They have 80 MPs. Only one is from Acholi. The 7 are from Buganda.
Yes. So that's what the Honorable Mao says. But anyway, let's go back to the history of DP in particular. Many people accuse Mao for bringing or selling or leasing DP to NRM. But this has been
your choice of words.
Yes, this has been the trend of DP. In 1963, the 1961 election of self-government, the 1962 election of independence, our area there, Bukedi, was actually DP on account of Catholics being the majority. That time, Bukedi was from Busia up to Parisa. All MPs there in that 1962 election were DP. Our own first MP, James Ochola Ondoa, was a Catholic and was elected DP MP. In 1963, a big chunk of DP MPs struck an accord with the UPC and they crossed. I think DP then remained just with out of the 21 MPs, the DP remained with about 5. I think Alex, 24, Latim and so on, people, very, very few. So it is not Mao who is selling DP. He is not the first person. I'm saying this has been the trend in DP. When Amin came, who were the first leaders, national leaders, to join him? The first national leaders to join Amin were former DP members of parliament, former DP leaders in different places. You can go and check this history.
When NRM came in?
In 1980, DP of Semogre Group chose to block Yusuf Lule, who at that time they accused him of being pro-monarchist. And Lule's plane, the plane that was carrying Lule back from Tanzania, stopped mid-air because the DP leadership in Uganda at that time, Semogre and his group, connived with Paul Mwanga, who was the de facto president, and they turned that plane back because they said DP, because Lule had announced that he was coming back to lead the DP, and the DP people here said, no, DP already has a leadership. What is he coming to do? So Mwanga turned Lule's plane.
This is factual.
Yes. 1980 elections, DP won 51 seats, I think. UPC won 72 seats. Yes. DP was mainly in Busoga, DP was in Buganda, DP was in Toro, DP was in Munyonyo. Those are the areas that brought DP MPs in the UPC2 government.
I'm going to interrupt you and say speed up.
In 1983.
I look at the crop.
In 1983. Yes, in 1983, at Colin Hotel in Toro, about to convene there a public rally. What is now Colin Hotel?
What is rationalism?
It was. Yes. Again, DP MPs crossed en masse.
So
into UPC.
So in conclusion,
yes.
this
so
is
come to
a
Mbarara.
trait.
Mbarara.
Yes.
Mbarara, it was a replay
of
all the delegates' conferences that DP has had. Remember, in that 1984, DP actually split, and Mary Okeny Atwoma, the vice president of DP, when he contested with Semogre and he lost, he formed the National Liberal Party. When Semogre came and joined the NRM, I don't know if many of you still remember, DP Mobilizers Group of Michael Kagwa. And then another Fisher came up, the top dialogue of Waswa Zero Twawula, which separated from Semogre on account when Semogre agreed with the NRM to extend the NRM term by another 5 years. So, I think we shouldn't just blame Mao. It is in their DNA, the DNA of DP.
That is real DP.
Yes.
The Emmanuel Dom on Bara.
Oscar, when you look at the history of DP, every time there has been a challenge within the leadership of the Democratic Party, they would either go to Rubaga or some of those senior clerics in order to have a discussion and find out how it could be resolved. That last happened, I think, when Honorable Semogere was still alive. And ever since Honorable Mao came to the fray, this hasn't been happening. And I don't know whether this is because of the weakened roots that form the Democratic Party, as my friends have been saying. For us, in the National Resistance Movement, we have an agreement with the Democratic Party. And because of that agreement, I'll be constrained to discuss the Democratic Party in a certain line. But watching what happened in Mbarara, I started wondering whether some of these parties don't have anything to learn from the Vatican. Because what came out in the media is not good enough for anybody. Even Honorable Mao, however much he tries to sanitize it, it shows that there was something that wasn't doing well or going on well in Mbarara. And perhaps if it had been confided in a room and the members and the public only waited for smoke, we could have seen black smoke or white smoke and believed that perhaps now the Democratic Party has got a leader. But the way it has been portrayed out in the public, it shows that there is a lot of challenge within the Democratic Party, and there is a lot that must be done in order to bring the members of the Democratic Party together. They have promised. I've listened to my brother Sebamala, engineer, and the Honorable Mabaiga. I don't know whether they will be going to court to challenge what happened in Mbarara. But for us who wish the Democratic Party well, our agreement still exists.
Okay.
And let's hope that they'll come and support us in the National Resistance Movement during the elections.
Thank you. Just one comment from you, Raymond. Following comments from historic comments from Oponopondo, what does that tell you about the earlier comment? Will you relate?
Oscar, I just want to be in this studio in possibly 2030, before 2031, when PLU decides that they want to go against the NRM. Then we would have that contestation within the NRM itself. Because when it started...
You think it's going to take that long? 2030?
Again, we can only hope. We can only hope. Because last weekend I was listening to this program and I was listening to Duncan.
Raymond, what you are saying won't happen.
Yes.
Dombo and Oponopono are going to be handed over to Muhoozi by his father. These ones are going to be handed over.
But there will be no contestation. Duncan Navigawa.
Yes, I was listening to Duncan Navigawa take on Emmanuel Dombo, and I thought to myself, if this contestation were allowed the way DP had it,
you don't have to wait there. Just go around the country now.
Yes.
Posters have emerged now.
Yes.
Go and see most posters of younger candidates are having NRM badge and PLU logo.
So that should tell you that many of these political parties are seated on very fragile ground.
Yes.
So I wouldn't want to laugh at DP because I see all the parties are headed in that direction. Yeah.
The FDC went to PFF
and ANT before PFF.
ANT, yes, it's ANT. No, right. So, back to you, Prof. You had wanted to have a discussion on security or insecurity. This week actually, we had a bomb threat. The UPDF said that neutralized it. A couple of days before that, last weekend, there was a second attack on a police station. And you seem to be but yes, on a police station. And for you, Prof, you seem to be concerned by greater insecurity, and it came to you when OO said we're a lot more secure now, and he gave comparisons: Congo, South Sudan. He didn't add in Afghanistan and so on.
Not only that, he was challenging me that he knows security far better than I know. Let's not go into that, but let me say this one. That the definition of security or the understanding of security should not be limited to military hardware or military capabilities. In my opinion, security should be wider. In the case of Uganda, I think we have an existential threat to security and integrity of the country on account of polarization we have in this country. We can start with Bwana or Fonopondo's region. When I was there at St. Peter's College, Tororo, studying there, I didn't know the difference between the Japadora and the Iteso. Today, you can see that Tororo is now divided in I don't know how many sects. When you look at the whole country, each community, each ethnic group, each clan wants to run away from another clan or another tribe, away from the district. Go to Kasese, go everywhere. When we extend it to cultural institutions, they are dividing every day. Dioceses, even the archbishop, especially the Anglican archbishop, is being flooded by people demanding to separate from the others. When you look at political polarization...
And you say that this is insecurity?
Yes. That is my interpretation of insecurity. When you see the political polarization between political parties and the ruling government and even within, you find a country that is not integrated, is not cohesive, is disunited and polarized. And that is the basis of insecurity. So when we are talking about security or insecurity, let us look at non-military security factors. And those are the very, 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 very important in Africa, especially because in Africa, the threat to the national security and integrity is not from outside. It is internal to the countries. Go to Libya, Sudan, Ethiopia, Somalia, South Sudan, Congo. It is basically internal. So, in the case of Uganda, we have a lot to do to make sure that we are secure. Because this business we are talking about today, the security we have, Mr. Opondo, in my interpretation, you have yours, which is expert, is that we are being kept together by President Museveni because he has control over the army. You know, the day President Museveni is not there, if we don't do something about this polarization I'm talking about to create national cohesion, the country can disintegrate. And I have given examples before. People say, especially I think my friend Kahindo Tafire, he normally says, Uganda has always been there, we found it there, it will always be there. I would want to ask him whether Yugoslavia is there. Is that Czechoslovakia? There was a country called Czechoslovakia. There was a country called the Soviet Union. Are they there anymore? So, they are not. The land is there, but the land does not define a nation. Does it?
No.
A country and a nation is not defined by Obtaka. It is defined by the don't even joke about these things of security, of national security and national cohesion and national integration. So when we are dealing with creating security, we should be looking at how to integrate society. The common terminology for the economy that we were told, that he has is a national we want to build a national integrated economy. I think we also need to build a national integrated society. Okay. When you, Opondo, sees how disintegrated you are in your region, then you shouldn't be looking at security from only the point of view of having bigger guns and bigger commanders. That's not where security comes from. That's where Gaddafi thought he had security. Ethiopia thought had security. Somalia thought had security. Security does not lie in big guns and the military capability. It lies in an integrated society. So in the case of these bombs that you had, it is partly that. You see, it is not sustainable to continue saying that we have the military capacity to contain you. No. What is important is we have the institutions in place to mitigate and mediate the conflicts between different entities in a country. So what we need to do now, those people who are causing insecurity here, we need to find ways and means, soft power now, using soft power, not hard power, of having them on board so that we resolve their grievances, not merely saying we are capable of defeating you. You know, Obote used to tell Museveni that you have gone to the bush, we shall find you there, and we shall leave you there. Museveni is in a state house, Obote didn't die in a state house. So let's be careful about security, however much you think you have the technical capacity to contain the people.
Abdul.
Yes.
Security, insecurity. the reference was to the bomb that was neutralized, and second time a police station is being attacked. This time round, though, it is reported that they were arrested.
It is reported. So I hear. But let's, I think let us try to separate these issues. There is one from an academic point, like Professor Mambusha is trying to elucidate. Yeah, and he's a professor, so we expect that sort of analysis. No, let me speak. Then there is a security from where
is not us.
Yeah. So then there is security which an ordinary man consumes. Like if you are an ordinary man in Kampala, is it true you can leave your house at night and move to town or town to your home safely? Is it also the view that that ordinary man would look at security like a Professor Mambusha? Maybe not. Is Kampala city or other towns the same like what goes on in the other regions? Sometimes I do work in South Africa, but I rarely move out of my hotel in the evening because you know that any time you could have a problem. So to that extent, the Uganda People's Defense Forces and all the security agencies have done some good work, that where a person can work, can leave town anytime, and can drive home, and wake up and go and work. Then there are these other aspects, like we are seeing lately, where I think there's a very, very big national problem, that you can have the Uganda People's Defense Forces attack a police station, attack like a rebel group, overrun it, and then go away. And there is an incident this month, then the following day there is another incident. Former government institutions are attacking each other. We only lucky that because the last one, there was even exchange of fire. We could have had bodies and so on. What does that signal? That the disciplined Uganda People's Defense or the NRA, I think, is starting to miss a point. That's why we hear even these other stories of learning some language, being somewhere in a basement and so on. No, I said learning Runyankole maybe, or wants me to say it as it is. Yeah. So, but I'm an old man. I have a gray beard, by the way, so I know how I speak. So once you have those sort of things, I think the Professor Mambusha's analysis starts coming in. Say, by the way, what you are having can easily collapse within 1 or 2 days, and you can have a problem. So it is time to do, reflection, especially on the people who manage the state apparatus, that this country does not degenerate, because all of us will be cooked and will be cooked for dinner.
Okay. Honorable Semujo.
This week you had it's called the Asingwire, one of those Nixon. Agasirwe, one of those senior police officers under Kayihura, arrested.
He was powerful when he was still in power.
On suspicion of murder. For me, with NRM, because the explanation by Magezi, who speaks for UPDF, about that bomb was not adding up. And because we are approaching elections, I am not sure whether they themselves are not involved to create a situation. I went to Eid for the first time and we were being checked because we pray from Nambole by UPDF innocently. So you are dealing with a very sophisticated regime that survives on security and insecurity. If they want to cause it, they will cause it, and then they will use it against announce measures and because I told you here, Oscar, when Tumukunde was in charge of the same way ISO, at that time he was getting 600 million monthly to fight terrorism in Kampala. His treasurer, this one who was buying markets, he was a Colonel Major General Munyonyo. Munyonyo was his treasurer. As soon as they leave that job, Munyonyo started buying properties in Kampala. Even Tumukunde was removed from ISO. One time we had a story in Monitor that he had gone to the cattle markets in their areas, and he was not even Kuramuza, he was just loading trucks and buying. So the people in security, sometimes at an institutional level, sometimes at a personal level, they want to cause insecurity because it's one way they get money. But sometimes institutionally, Museveni himself will be behind it because he wants, I think every bomb thrown around Museveni will celebrate it because internationally he's fighting terrorism. Internally, you've seen Moz every day. You work with the ADF. You are the one throwing bombs. Don't think, Oscar, those statements are innocent. That a bomb goes off, then the next tweet by Moz is that you and UP, you are the one throwing the bombs. So it tells you the nature of the campaigns that we are going to have. But the attack on police, see, this state has been taken over by the military. And the military now sees itself, I think, at the same level where many soldiers were. Everything else is under them. You policemen, who are you? We have told you detain Dombo. How can you not detain him? And they do that almost at every police station. There are military people there. So we are under a military arrangement. So that's why when Moz was summoned by Parliament, he said, you clowns, you MPs, Fono Bondo, you are about to become one clown. He said, you clowns, I cannot, you should be yes. He said,
hold on, no.
Yes. So he said, you clown, you should come crawling before me, how can I? And the crowds indeed, the following week, they were apologizing that we did not intend to invite you, sir. The speaker was on her knees saying, no, we couldn't have invited you, sir. So the military has taken over, Oscar. Yeah. The security that Ofono Opondo was talking about, and a military regimes, whether it is Gaddafi, whether it is everybody, they tend to make their countries secure. The point Abud was making, so, you can go to town free and come back, Raymond, but you are under military.
So yesterday, again, I don't know, because these Honorable Semujo, these traffic rules that you MPs are giving, you've decreed new traffic rules and everything. So the cars that passed me, I couldn't photograph them quickly, were military trucks. Then they got to the traffic lights and drove past the traffic lights. One of them was a pickup, no number plate, just drove past the pickup. Military truck. Then the next one I saw, all this happened to me yesterday. Coming to town, for us old people who live in villages, it is hard work. Then I saw another one being led by a military escort. I don't know whether it was Dombos, but it was a Land Cruiser, and the number plates were covered.
I suggest that before we go out,
and the number plates were covered.
We sent somebody to check Dombo's entrance.
Yes. So it was actually very, very neatly covered.
Yes.
Okay, and again that car was moving. Ahead of it was the escort, military escort. So is that security?
Yes. Oscar, I worry the gentlemen in this room are not sufficiently equipped to understand popular immiseration.
Right.
Outside there, more than 22 million of the people of Uganda are young people. You need to see the level of immiseration. People think that insecurity is that, the army is beating opposition politicians and all that. But there are many young people who do not see a path to the success that people who are aged 40, 50 already have. A path to basic things, a good home, taking your children to school, being able to afford hospital.
Even a mortgage.
Yes. And that immiseration, yes. Even you call it, but so that immiseration, many of the people who say they are, for example, opposition politicians, will still use the military and police to guard their assets, their wealth assets. If you buy a plot of land in Semuju's constituency now, you need to have the number of the DPC and the OCC ID there so that they can deploy with ease if anyone contests your ownership of that land. So that kind of immiseration is growing, and increasingly many young people are, I think, quiet, but they're trying to organize differently. They may not be a source of insecurity, but their apathy might become a source of insecurity. That you have a political system that's trying to respond to the needs of people, and people have completely given up on it. In the public out there, for example, everyone in the political class is one and the same. Whether you are in the opposition or you are in government, all of you are one and the same. When people look from the outside in, they say, these MPs, they are thieves, they are taking money. So now even our good friends like Semuju have been fighting budgeting discipline. When the time comes that they are talking about, it won't spare them. Yes, but
a friend of mine, Raymond, told me that someone built on his land. It's known his land. They built on the land. They built a structure. He also came at night and demolished the structure.
And yes,
and that's how they have worked.
Yes, but I don't agree with the professor's analysis that the state will disintegrate. In many of the scenarios,
you have people who are celebrating the death of people.
No. The scenarios.
That signifies.
Yes, the scenarios that we've seen across the continent. For example, in Egypt, the state then becomes a very militaristic entity. So Egypt slipped into a military dictatorship. Sudan slipped into a military dictatorship.
That has collapsed.
A lot of West African countries have now slipped into military dictatorships. Countries like Kenya, where popular immiseration is also happening, they have slowly lost their appetite for liberal democratic politics and have started to use the patronage politics. So it's highly unlikely that we'll have a one-day event where, the state slips into violence. It's very likely we might get into patronage, or more likely that our military institutions, or those institutions that have force and violence, will become more prominent and more important to the political system. Right. In which case, a lot of this politics won't matter then.
Right.
Yeah.
It will stay with me what you said, that the day PLU starts competing with NRM. Honorable Dombo.
Agaba had the Dombo for...
Oh, Dank Abigaba. Had Dombo for breakfast.
Oscar.
Not even
breakfast. Oscar, not many years ago, Uganda was the biggest exporter of refugees in the region. Right now, Uganda is the biggest host country to refugees from various parts of the country.
True.
This movement shows you the level of the nature of security.
Actually, in the world, we are recognized.
The nature of security that we have in the country. That this type of movement shows you that there is something that is attracting people here. Now, maintaining that security, it takes the total determination and correct interventions that are done by the state. People can talk about utopia, countries where the stability is because there is integration. Even where there is integration, The state apparatus that guarantees security must be effective, must be knowledgeable, and must be doing a good job. That's why the UPDF, the police, and other security agencies have tried to do a good job here. On integration, just yesterday I met a Pakistani who has decided to settle in Uganda. And he made a comment and said, you people in Uganda, you just don't know how beautiful your country is. He said that there are not many countries that you'll get Honorable Katun to a Muslim, Honorable Semju a Muslim, a Catholic stayed here, a Protestant, and you're on the same table discussing, and you go back home. There are many countries, including Africa, where this is not happening. The level of integration is very poor. In Uganda, when the NRM had just come to power, in the tax park of Uganda, there used to be preachers, both from the Pentecostal and the Muslim world, and they would insult one another, bordering of almost killing one another. Just a few days ago, a Muslim cleric made a statement about Namugongo, which he doesn't understand. But you go on social media and see how the other Muslim clerics have responded to him. Then you see that the level of integration and acceptability and people working together is so good. So, through state institutions, government has tried to do a good job. Through integration, it is a journey. But the people of Uganda accept one another, staying one another. It is the economic inequality that is creating challenges within the background, and purely because some opposition politicians are misleading the young people by not telling them that economic prosperity comes out of hard work. It doesn't come out of just getting and picking, and patience over time. So, we have tried our best. NRM has tried its best, but there is still a lot that must be done and can only be achieved if we collectively work together.
Yeah, but hold on, then I'll come back to you because we have very few minutes in. But I won't allow to have last words, so I'll come back to you.
I thought I'm the expert. Former government spokesperson.
Former is the key word.
Former government spokesperson. Former
security, insecurity. We have
I just want to limit myself to the two issues.
Yes.
Because we don't have time. The raiding of the police station and attempting to force the police to release or detain suspects is a case of gross indiscipline by those few elements in the UPDF. Detention ought to be an official thing. If the army has apprehended somebody, it should go, give reasons, give the nature of the suspicion, and is recorded formally.
And take them to court-martial.
No. First of all, detention.
Yeah.
What follows, whether you take to court-martial or to the civil courts, whatever it is subsequent. And therefore, personally, I want to... So I say it is a gross indiscipline on those elements. And it is good. The combination of the army, intelligence, and police did hot pursuit, apprehended them, and to the best of my knowledge, they're in custody. And knowing the tradition in the UPDF, those fellows are going to have their matters really handled with the firm hand. And I hope Magezi, my young brother, will come out maybe after that process to tell the world what the UPDF, what the issues were really, and how the UPDF has. Now, the second one of terrorism or suspected terrorism, the UPDF and the security has said it was intelligence-led. By the intelligence neutralizes many things before we see. Much of the work in security, actually, we don't see. Those of us who have been there, we know.
And we shouldn't see. As it should be.
We neutralize many things before what you see. So, and they have said, this is a case that had been on the radar for the last 5 or so years. And particularly, the spark was the bomb that was literally somebody who blew up himself at CPS. This person who was blown by the UPDF this last time was apprehended then, 2023. For some reason, released. Maybe there was no sufficient information on it. And they continued planting. What I need to tell the public that bad people, particularly terrorists, will never give up. They will keep trying. And in this particular case, people say, "Oh, somebody says it doesn't add up." But security said we have been trailing, and we waited at the right junction, the right rendezvous, and we neutralized. Now, for Semuju to say that this is the work that the president plants false intelligence, plants false terrorist alert, and
perhaps
so
because there's not enough information.
But the president does not need to give to Semuju.
No, when there are deaths involved, then yes, he needs to.
No. But he's saying that yes, there will in any case, in any matter, there will be people who will want to take advantage of a situation. And so, what he's saying that to Mukunde, I don't know, Munyonyo, they used to skim money using false intelligence, and so
maybe
probably that's the reason they were removed.
Okay.
Yes. But we don't expect the mainstay of intelligence and security to be fabricating intelligence for purposes of earning money.
One sentence.
Well, I think the Uganda People's Defense Forces owes its sister agency, the Uganda Police, an explanation, and also the public. And respect, actually, because you see, if you have an incident like these two incidents in Wakis and so on, and then the Uganda People's Defense Forces is mute about it, it sends a different signal. Tomorrow you'll have one Rogo soldier in Nakapiripirit also attacking a police station, and he thinks it is business as usual. We don't and there shouldn't be apologies for this sort of thing. The Army Administration, the Minister of Defense Administration should come out strongly and say, look, this is unacceptable.
Thank you. Thank you very much, the listeners of the Capital Gang. Thank you, Professor Mambusia Dewesa, for comments on gang. Thank you, Raymond Mujuni. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Emmanuel Dombo. Thank you. What did you say? MP2B of Honopondo. Thank you, Honorable Katuntu. Thank you, Honorable Semuju. Star Cafe.
B or something to be.
Okay. Star Cafe, thank you so much. Dance Force and Mixture promo is coming on. Very sad, our friend, Honorable Babu.
Yes.
Barriers today. It's really easy. Sometimes we have him here on gang. We commiserate with him. There's also Agatha. I reached out to her and sent she, Bush DJ, Bush Baby. He's done something for us in Rotary.
My neighbor probably today.
Yeah. Very sad. So I am Oscar Semoyam Soke, and I shall see you next week.